Tonight on Unsolved Mysteries Rewind, two friends get together to discuss episodes of their favorite television show, Unsolved Mysteries. Will they find answers? Will anyone care? You may be able to solve a mystery.
Hello, this is Mark, and you are listening to Unsolved Mysteries Rewind. I am on with Catherine. How you doing, Catherine?
I'm good, Mark. How are you? Nice to be back.
Yeah, welcome back. It's been quite the hiatus. I think that we're fortunate enough to have listeners who periodically send me messages like, "Is the show coming back?" And it's back. At least we're trying to bring it back.
Right. You know, I was meant to look up our last episode together, but I think it was 2021, maybe.
Wow. What? Really?
Yeah. I went back to school. Unfortunately, my father passed away.
Aww.
I got married. So all that jazz. And now I'm back in action.
And now it's 2029 when this will finally get released.
Right.
No. Well, I mean, yeah, a lot of crazy things. My life has not been as colorful, but it's been consistently fine.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
Got a new dog. It's about
So did I. I
really?
adopted a puppy 2 weeks before my wedding.
Oh.
I do not recommend it.
What kind of dog?
A pit bull.
Nice. We have two miniature teacup poodles.
Love it. I had a pitty pass away in February, and we were going to wait. But now I have Al, who I adopted in 2020. He's about 7. And Dahlia's just over a year.
Nice. Yeah, we have Toodles and Taylor. And Taylor is Toodles' daughter.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Love to hear it.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So, what are we talking about tonight? What case did we pick out of the files of Unsolved Mysteries?
We are talking about the murder of 16-year-old high school student Joyce McLain from East Millinocket, Maine.
Yeah, this is a pretty tough one. Very pretty girl. Whenever I see pictures of girls from the 80s, or I guess late 70s too, they seem to like they look older. And I wonder if it's because I grew up in that period of time and they seemed so much older. I don't know. Like it's still stuck in my head that big hair and everything.
Could be that, but I halfway wonder too, because of all the makeup trends and hair trends, girls that age just hop on all the trends.
Yeah.
So you know a girl is 19 years old when she's got winged eyeliner and pin straight hair. Mm-hmm. That's what was popular when I was 19, at least.
But like when you're 16, you're like, oh, I'm not going to be able to legally have a drink for another 5 years now. But back then, it was 18.
And they mentioned in a few of the articles I read that there was a 20-year-old suspect who was drinking the night of the murder, and they said, but don't worry, the drinking age was only 18 back then.
It's what? It's crazy.
Actually, underage drinking was not my first concern in this case. But
well, I mean, it's one of those things that it could have led to the problem, right? Of course. But no, she didn't come off as a type of party animal. I'm not saying she didn't ever have a drink, but she didn't come off as a stereotypical like party animal. She's a musician, honor student, cheerleader. She composed some of her own music, which I wonder if they ever kind of released,
I wonder that too.
Yeah. I was like, I'm a musician. I always like to find, these little things. She played the saxophone though. So I'm wondering if it was like that, I don't know. Like the saxophone was a very overused instrument in the 80s. So
Was it? That's what they mentioned, that she was a saxophone player, but in a lot of the pictures, she was holding a flute.
right,
So
I saw that.
she was a multi-instrumentalist.
Yeah, pretty good. Let's see. She was preparing for the soccer season. You know, like pretty much all around, from what I can tell, she's pretty good kid. I mean, at least on paper, she appeared to be well liked. She's a pretty girl. Seems like they don't have any photos of her without a big smile on her face.
Right.
And, you know, as somebody who has a 17-year-old, that's an accomplishment.
Right. And we were talking about the party aspect of this case. She was not going to a party. She went out for a jog to start conditioning for the soccer season. It was the end of the summer. I know where I'm from, girls soccer, I think, is in the spring. Maybe it's in the fall. Who knows? But she was preparing for soccer on the evening of August 8th, 1980. She went for a jog around her high school. She was last seen alive between 7:45 and 8 o'clock near the school's softball and soccer fields. And then she didn't come home that night. So did you want to talk a little bit about the search and what happened after she didn't come home?
What I wanted to point out is, you know, that action of going for an evening run is something we all see. I mean, maybe some people even partake in it. I do not, but we see people running all the time, you know, or when you go to a school and they have a track or something, it's kind of a safe space when you think about it. And for anything to happen there seems like such a violation, and it seems like a community type of violation. So
exactly,
that kind of hit me a little bit too, because over near our high school, they just redid all the fields and everything, and they just, you know, they reopened it in autumn, and it's like people, you know, on the weekends and everything, they, you know, the community uses it, you know, for running and stuff. So it's just kind of crazy. So the murder kind of I didn't even get to anything. I'm getting right to it. So she went missing, and but her body was discovered. On Unsolved Mysteries, they actually speak with the person who found her body. And at first I was like, oh, this guy seems sketchy. And I'm thinking everybody's going to seem sketchy. When
you don't know who did it, everyone's a suspect.
And I still don't know if for sure the person who was blamed was alone in it. I just don't know. I get a feeling
that's a big, and in the update we'll find out that the person who discovered her body was not guilty, and knowing that he was innocent after watching that video, after knowing he was innocent, was kind of taunting. Because you go from thinking this guy is sketchy to, wow, this guy was traumatized.
Oh, completely. I can't imagine. I can't imagine finding, you know, a dead body. I think it would just be so upsetting, of course. The way it was described is that she was brutally attacked. You know, a blunt, some type of blunt object to her head. They don't go into, at least in Unsolved Mysteries, I don't know if you found a weapon. Like, what was used? Was that ever recovered?
Yes. It wasn't, I believe it was recovered, but it wasn't released. It was like a big, like, concrete pipe. And the perpetrator said he had to use 2 hands to use it. And they did find the murder weapon. But that's one of the reasons they knew he was guilty, is because he knew so much about the crime scene. Yeah,
like the way she was placed and whatnot. Right. But when they did find her, unfortunately, you know, it just sounds so brutal. And it is. Her skull was caved in. Her hands are tied behind her back with a cloth. There was a telephone insulator found nearby as a likely weapon. And I guess that's the thing you're talking about. Is that like a ceramic insulator?
Yeah, I think it's like the concrete tubing around like a payphone.
Wow.
If I'm imagining that correctly.
But the first thing I thought we were going to hear when I dove into this is that there would have been a form of rape or some form of sexual assault. But
no, and unfortunately we do get into that, and it's pretty graphic as to why. But we'll get into that. No sexual assault occurred, no fingerprints or DNA was recovered. It was before there were major advances in DNA, but at the time, no DNA, no real trace evidence. But unfortunately, there was heavy storms the night she was killed, so that put a dent in things.
So yeah, I mean, nowadays, we have, of course, like touch DNA, and you can just literally touch something, and they're able to recover some form of DNA, which is horrifying and also slightly unbelievable.
Right.
So, it's just crazy how far we've come in, 45 years. I mean, 45 years is a very long time. So, but yeah, they did recover the body. Of course, like the murder shocked everyone. It became like a ripple through everyone, like lock your doors, make sure your kid's at home. And, I think any type of community would be rocked by this. We had a murder in our community many, many years ago before I lived here, and it still resonates with people.
Yeah, we had a murder in my community it was 9 years ago now, and the girl who was killed, her apartment was right across the street from my work.
Oh.
So it hit very close to home.
And when was this?
It was December 2nd of 2016.
Wow.
And I remember because they were the guy's on trial now, but they were just talking about the anniversary and everything. And we were interviewed by police. We were interviewed by the news. We were hanging posters. It was like extremely close to home.
Yeah, I mean, it's shocking what something like that can, and how brutal people can be. So one of the things that I think is so interesting is, I'm just going to bring us right to the person of interest, which is Philip Fournier, I guess, or Fournier.
I think it's Fournier. That's what they were saying in some of the interviews.
He confessed his involvement to a pastor, and I've always wondered.
Very early on, yeah.
But I have to wonder. I don't know anything about that type of thing where you would confess something in a confessional, but I always wonder if there's like kind of a client like a privilege to not say anything. I don't think there is. Shouldn't be.
And only from the University of Law and Order do I know this, but I think priests are not obligated to report. Like, they're not mandatory reporters, but they can get subpoenaed, and if they're subpoenaed, they can talk about it.
Because, I mean, it's not HIPAA. It's a secret.
No.
But, yeah, I mean...
But they have argued clergy privilege in court cases before.
Also, what was it? The night of, or overnight after the killing occurred, the same person did steal an oil truck and tried to crash it. People claimed it was a form of a suicide attempt, and he ended up in a coma for days with his skull fractured, ironically. So, like, do you think he had like a mental break and just, I'm going to attack this girl? I mean, we do learn that he had a crush on her.
So Philip Scott Fournier, who went by Scott, he was 19 at the time, eventually convicted of the murder. He did confess to family members, coworkers, and eventually police. He detailed non-public knowledge of the crime scene, which we'll get into, and he was present he was seen during near the scene. But it's tough because there was a softball tournament in town that brought hundreds of more people. There was a nearby paper mill that had hired hundreds of day laborers. So there was just a lot of extra people near where she disappeared. And then there were several different parties and bonfires and this, that, and the other thing. So there was just a lot of evidence and people and witnesses to sift through.
Yeah. There are a lot of theories about what happened.
Right.
I have a hard time believing that more people didn't see Joyce. Even in the reenactment, I'm like, there are a lot of people out there.
I made a note of that. Do you want to get into the timeline and then our thoughts and theories can kind of come together and make sense? Sure. Okay.
Go on. You pick up.
Okay. So in August 8th of 1980, she went for a jog behind Schenck High School in East Millinocket near the soccer fields. And then August 9th, 1980, so early in the morning, Philip Scott Fournier steals and crashes an oil truck nearby. He suffered severe injuries. He had a TBI, traumatic brain injury, and he later claimed it was a suicide attempt. Then the next day, so they said it was about 35 hours after she disappeared, her body was discovered by volunteer searcher Peter Larley, and he's the one who we saw in the Unsolved Mysteries segment. And he was initially a person of interest because he had volunteered to help the search, but he had gone off of the planned search path, and he kind of went off on his own, and then he found her.
It's weird that would bring a punishment, right? But at the same time, they're like, well, how did he know?
That, and some people want to be the hero, so maybe he...
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
And then instead of him going back to like the search camp, he went home and called the police. So he was very initially a person of interest, but he was very shortly after cleared by his alibi. And then the case kind of went cold. In 1981, Scott Fournier confessed to a pastor, his parents, and police. He initially claimed others were involved, but everyone he mentioned was ruled out.
Now, let me ask you, do you know what was going on between 1980, when this happened, and 81? So, I mean, one thing I couldn't really locate is, like, he wasn't in a coma the whole time? I mean...
Not the whole time, but he was in a coma for several days or a couple weeks. And when he came to, the police had learned of this car accident and that it was so close to where her body was found that they went and talked to him. And he was, like, giving different statements and changing his words, and
he also had a history of criminal behavior, not to mention stealing that truck.
History of criminal behavior, and he blamed the change in stories to his injuries, and he was drunk that night. This, that, and the other thing.
Right. Well,
so the people that Philip Scott Fournier called out, they were ruled out via alibi. In the mid to late 1980s, Joyce's mom formed a committee called Justice for Joyce, and that committee generated between 7,000 and 9,000 signatures for the case to appear on Unsolved Mysteries.
Now, I think that the population of the town, I think they mentioned, is about 2,500. So it gives you an idea of the reach of this petition.
They went to grocery stores and malls and fairs, and they really got out there.
We have Robert Stack holding a bunch of papers, and I'm like, is that the petition? Or is that just paper? It's one of those kind of, it's a total prop, but I mean, it's just kind of funny.
So in February of 1989, the case was featured on Unsolved Mysteries, generated tips, but no breakthroughs, and Fournier confessed again to another coworker.
So you gotta wonder what was going on in this guy's head. Almost 10 years goes by.
I think he was playing games, and I don't have my source written down, but he was quoted as saying he got away with it for so long just because he kept changing his story and kept blaming other people. And the police thought all along that multiple people were involved, so he just ran with it. And I think my theory is that they didn't pursue him solely because they really thought they wanted to catch the other people.
Right.
And I don't think other people were involved. I think it was just him.
And then 20 years goes by, right? Mm-hmm. And so they exhume her body.
They exhumed her body after multiple letters and petitions from her mother. Her mother was a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, like she's very impressive. Like when you see her talking, she's very sure of herself. She's really, I mean, she went through a lot of terrible stuff, but she's pretty incredible.
She was quoted as saying, "I just got tired of it because the police kept promising one thing and it wasn't following through, and then the grand jury was happening and it didn't happen." And she said, "They told me I couldn't go to the press because they want to keep it quiet and that'll mess up the investigation." So she got tired of it, and she finally wrote a letter to the Maine Attorney General, and that's what kind of broke the case open in 2008 when they exhumed her body. They did find DNA, and they were able to get samples, but nothing that didn't belong to Joyce.
Right.
And that kind of ignited an interest. People.com profiled the story. There was an Investigation Discovery episode on it. And during this time, Joyce's gravesite was repeatedly vandalized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, immediately you think like there's going to be, in retrospect, a connection to Philip, but there's no establishment. I mean, it could just be somebody who saw the article and they wanted to just mess with people. People are twisted.
Right. There was no connection to Unsolved Mysteries or the murder or anything like that when her grave was vandalized. Separately in 2009, Scott, who was then 48, was federally indicted, pled guilty in December of 2009, sentenced to 6.5 years in prison for possession of child pornography. During that sentencing hearing in the U.S. District Court in Bangor, Judge John Woodcock publicly identified Fournier as a longtime person of interest in Joyce's murder. That was the first time that status was openly stated, not only to Philip Scott Fournier, but to anybody.
That's crazy.
Like, nobody had been publicly named. And it brought renewed media and investigative attention to Fournier. And even though the child porn conviction was totally unrelated, which I was trying to find how long he actually served, if he served his full sentence. I couldn't find it.
Well, he's still incarcerated.
He's still incarcerated for the murder.
Yeah, but we don't know what his sentence would be for other things, you're saying? Did he
serve the full 6.5 years, or was he let out? Or was he arrested at some point? I see what you're
saying. So in 2009, he got sentenced to 6.5 years. Did he get out in like 2015?
Right.
Interesting. Because in 2016, he's arrested. So you have to presume if you're arrested, you're not in prison. Right?
Correct.
So yeah, I mean, there is a period of time here where he served his time. He's out. There are a couple of details that Fournier brings out to the table that only he would have known.
Right.
Such as Joyce was going through her menstrual cycle at that moment, what the murder weapon was, and the condition of the body. So it was like, all right, this is somebody who knows just as much as the investigators or, the medical examiners.
And it really struck me, like, it was pretty scary when I read this part, because the state of Joyce's body, she was nearly naked. Mm-hmm. She just had her shoes and socks on, like a ribbon in her hair, and her hands tied behind her back. Mm-hmm. And the state of the body was unreleased. So it was clearly sexually motivated if she was naked, but there was no evidence of sexual assault.
So do you think he was in the process of attempting?
He admitted to it. He wanted to have sex with her, or
rape her. Yeah.
It's not sex if it's not consensual. He wanted to rape her, and he said it wasn't the right time of the month. And only the medical, not even the police, only the medical examiner knew that she was menstruating at that time.
So the only reason that Philip didn't rape her is because she had her period, which is
correct. It's disgusting.
Yeah, like you just
the whole case is disgusting, and he's disgusting.
Right. I mean, it's insane. This is an insane person. It was also stated somewhere that he stated that he had a crush on her. Mm-hmm. Now, how old was he when he attacked her?
19.
19.
And she was almost 17.
So he was just kind of a townsy who just saw her from time to time, maybe?
Yeah. So this all kind of went down in 2009 when he was named a person of interest. In 2016, he was arrested. And one thing I noted is he was convicted of child porn in 2009, sent to prison.
Right.
They probably could have arrested him for Joyce right away. But since he was in jail anyway, they probably just used that time to build their case. And they waited until he was at the end of his sentence or out of jail when they had a really strong case to finally arrest him.
Interesting. You know what I didn't look up, and I'm doing a quick little search here. I'm just wanted to fact check this before I say it. I'm not going to say the names, but he was married at some point and had at least one child.
Oh wow, I didn't read that one.
Yeah, it was married in 97 and then separated exactly 1 year later. I'm not going to mention her name, of course. Let's see. The couple remained on friendly terms initially, limited contact. And yeah, it's just, everything we already know. So yeah, it's not too hard to find, but it's very odd that he would, he went on with his life. So in 1997, this is a full 17 years later after he just murdered a girl. Mm-hmm. He's a free man. He got away with it, I guess. And probably thought this is never ever going to catch up with me.
Because he was toying with the investigators the entire time. That's my theory, is that he was just toying with them the whole time. Mm.
But it's interesting that he was, that all of this time that he was a longtime person of interest, and maybe he wasn't even aware of that.
They went through a lot of investigators, and we'll get into it a little later. There was one main investigator that was pretty hell-bent on another suspect. Mm-hmm. But Fournier was finally arrested in 2016. He was then 55. Arrested and charged with murder based on re-interviews and accumulated confessions. they referenced an affidavit in his 2016 arrest warrant, they referenced an affidavit from a police interview in about 1989. And it was kind of like, what the hell? Why wasn't he arrested then? Like, this statement alone could have gotten him arrested. So it was a really messy investigation in the beginning, I think.
Yeah, do you think it could be chalked up to bad police work in the beginning?
Maybe. I have a theory that I'll get into.
Please.
But in 2018, he had a bench trial and was given a guilty verdict on February 22nd. According to Google AI, I don't know if we're AI friendly or not on this podcast, but
I'm pretty AI friendly. I use it to organize my notes.
Nice. A bench trial is a court case where the judge acts as the sole decision maker, serving as both the finder of fact, which would be like the jury, and the interpreter of the law, and there's no jury present. So this is up to the defendant. The defendant can opt for a bench trial. Both sides present evidence and arguments, but the judge listens, weighs the evidence, and assesses witness credibility. Ultimately delivers the verdict, making it faster, more streamlined, and often more technical process than a jury trial. In April of 2018, he was sentenced to 45 years in prison.
Wow.
February of 2019, Maine Supreme Judicial Court unanimously upheld the conviction and sentence on appeal.
I mean, he's 58 here. It's great. I mean, that's amazing to me.
And then as of now, December of 2025, no further developments. Fournier now is about 64. He remains incarcerated at Maine State Prison, serving his 45-year sentence. All of his appeals have been exhausted, and the case is considered closed.
Another thing I couldn't find too much information about was whether Joyce's family had ever confronted him.
Like a victim's impact statement?
Or even just talking about him at all. I mean, I wouldn't blame them if they never even wanted to think about the guy. But it seems like her mom was pretty badass. Like,
yeah, his mom did say that if and when he's caught, I'm just going to look at him and smile because he's in prison now, like I've been.
Yeah, and in the interview on Unsolved Mysteries, we hear from Joyce's sister, and I think just the sister. I don't remember.
Sister, mom, and then the chairman of the Justice for Joyce committee. I think those were the
I knew there was somebody else. I couldn't remember who the other person
and
was.
Peter Larley.
Yeah, I mean, people are really, really, they got their justice. I mean, they got it late. Like it took a long time. But I guess I just wonder what's going on in his head. Like, do you think he's in prison right now? Because right now he's in prison. Do you think he's thinking, well, I got away with it for, a couple decades?
It was fun while it lasted.
It's insane.
I have no idea. I don't know, and I don't care to know what's going through this guy's head. Do you want to get into the theories and alternative suspects?
Sure. First and foremost, I just want to throw out there that this whole thing doesn't come off as something that he did alone. I don't know why I think that. I just feel that way. We do see a reenactment where local teenagers are kind of hanging out, and it's like a movie from the 80s. They're hanging out in their pickup truck and drinking beers, and they start in the reenactment harassing her, and they're saying it's possible they led her into the woods and attacked her there, which is absolutely possible. But I would imagine that there would be more evidence to show that particular scenario happened, although that's maybe how it started with God, what's his name? Sorry. So many people I read about Fournier. I keep saying Fournier, but Philip. Sorry. But what kind of theories are you thinking?
So the biggest theory initially was local teenagers or attendees at a nearby softball tournament harassed Joyce, attempted sexual assault, and killed her. Out-of-town day laborers from the paper mill, which we had talked about before. And then what really got the investigation going was Fournier's accident was nearby where Joyce was found. It must have been very close to where she was found because when they found out about it, they said, hey, we have to go talk to this guy. He was in the hospital in a coma. When he came to, the police went to question him. He wasn't much help at first. He claimed he had heard people talking about it. Fournier blamed his inconsistent statements on his TBI and the fact that he was drinking that night. He directed police to a party at Adam Austin's house. The police honed in on Grant Boyton, who was a major...
He's just mentioning everyone,
spitballing names.
Exactly.
Yeah. The police honed in on Grant Boynton, a friend of Joyce's, whose family had a camp near Joyce's family's camp. The police were able to confirm alibis of everyone at the party except for Grant's. So he went in, he took a polygraph test, which was inconclusive.
Yeah.
Then he took a second one, and he passed the polygraph test. Fournier would call the police every so often saying, oh, I remembered something else. He kept remembering more things and just eventually insisted it was Grant.
I forget what your opinion on polygraphs are.
They're not admissible in court. They can get the ball rolling, but I mean,
do you think they're legitimate? Do you believe in them or?
No.
Yeah, me either.
I think it's kind of a last-ditch effort.
I think if it's not admissible, then it shouldn't even be a mention, personally.
Because if you can be telling the truth, but if you're nervous, you'll fail. And for me, I didn't do anything wrong, but if I'm being questioned by the police, I'm going to be nervous.
Oh my God. I'm always nervous. If I'm driving,
give me a polygraph test now. I'll probably fail it because that is nerve-wracking.
If I have a cop behind me, you'd think I was transporting a kilo of heroin or something.
Exactly.
I have the most guilty conscience.
At work, I build airplanes for a living, and because of our FAA insurance, we have to random drug test. And last time I got pulled randomly, I was so nervous. I haven't done any drugs.
Right.
I don't smoke weed. I don't do coke. Right. I haven't done anything. But I was so nervous.
You had a poppy bagel. You had a poppy bagel 3 weeks ago.
I walked by somebody at the mall 2 weeks ago who smelled like pot. Am I going to fail? I don't know. So, yeah. Long story long.
My grandfather built a plane in his garage back in the 40s.
I don't actually build planes. I build the engines.
Oh, that's interesting.
What are you going to do?
He bought a kit, and it was apparently it's this big deal plane. I don't have the plane. I just have the manual, but it's kind of interesting, the step by step on how to build it.
That's cool.
I guess.
So yeah, inconclusive polygraph, and then he passed a polygraph. Fournier was insisting it was Grant. The police hounded Grant, and I'm honestly really surprised they didn't get a false confession from him. Because he was young. He was a kid. But he stood his ground, and he was eventually let go. I couldn't find anything on when or if he was officially cleared by police, but I think he was definitely a scapegoat by our boy Scott Fournier. I think Scott just kept naming names, and once the police said we can't clear his alibi, Scott just kept going with it, because apparently what Scott told the police And just to recap, his name is Philip Scott Fournier. I keep calling him one of those three names, but the bad guy.
Yeah.
The bad guy said he was at the party, Grant left, he heard Joyce scream, and then Grant came back and Joyce wasn't there, according to our boy.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I would hope nowadays Grant is cleared of suspicion, because he just got drunk at a party, and
yeah, I mean,
somebody happened to get murdered nearby.
You can go out to a party and people, maybe you drink too much and you're like, all right, I'm out of here. And you go pass out somewhere. And there's your alibi. Your alibi is gone, right? Nobody saw you.
Exactly. That's what happened to Grant.
Yeah. And it's a shame that some people might even go to prison.
I tried to Google his name. Nothing really came up about Grant, whether he was cleared or anything. I think he's clear. I would hope he's officially cleared now.
Well, Unsolved Mysteries Rewind clears him. He's
officially cleared by Mark and Catherine.
Right. Where's my bell? Here we go. Cleared.
Under other individuals such as Peter Larley, who found the body. Peter was briefly considered a suspect. He volunteered to help search, but he went off track. And he found Joyce when he was by himself. He went home and called the police, but he was cleared shortly after via alibi. And then one of the other main suspects throughout the whole investigation was Joe Albert. He was convicted of a separate murder with similar elements, and they were suggested by some investigators. But one thing we forgot to mention, Joyce was naked when she was found, and her clothes were found kind of nearby, like stuffed under a rock.
Mm-hmm.
So Joe, the murderer Joe was convicted of, same instance. The girl was naked and her clothes were found nearby, stuffed under a rock or something. But retired detective Joseph Zamboni, he was really all for Joe Albert, and I think that might be a reason that there wasn't a resolution sooner, is because he was so hell-bent on Joe Albert. But he testified during the trial that he doubted Fournier's sole guilt and pointed to alternative suspects, but the alternative suspects were ruled out.
Yeah, I wonder if there's like a little bit of a like a crushing blow to Zamboni, where he's like, but I believe it's this, and it's like, well, those people are ruled out, but I still believe it,
Joyce's mother, Pam, did write to Joe Albert, begging him to confess, and he's like, look, I didn't confess, and if I did, then whoever really killed her will get away with it.
Can you imagine somebody, like, you're guilty, you're not guilty, right? And the mother of this, somebody who's gone through such trauma with this situation, right, is asking you to confess. And it's like, I didn't do it. Oh, man.
So at the end of the trial, the prosecution argued that Fournier acted alone, following Joyce into the woods, attempting assault, and bludgeoning her. No evidence supported multiple perpetrators, and the thunderstorms likely erased any physical evidence.
Right. Which, I don't know. Do you think they would have found that much more evidence? Footprints?
Footprints, maybe. If there was a sexual assault, they would have found that, but there wasn't. Nowadays, I think...
Oh, nowadays, yeah.
Right. I mean, if it was like a perfect crime scene 50 years ago, they could probably find DNA now. Like, they could pull evidence from a perfect crime scene 50 years ago.
Well, it's crazy.
And they could pull the DNA.
Now but it's like they're, subpoenaing everybody's like Ring doorbell footage and putting together,
It was not a perfect crime scene.
No.
So 50 years later, they can't, 45 years later, it's going to be really hard.
Yeah.
But if this particular crime happened today and they found the body after a rainstorm with all the advances in forensics and DNA, I think they could have gotten something if it happened today.
Right. I mean, even if he's just grabbing her or, there was some physical contact, they probably would have been able to recover some evidence nowadays.
Right. And there's CCTV footage and cameras everywhere. And so now we get to the fun part. We get to conspiracies and speculation.
What do you think? What do you think you think it's a gang?
No, I think they got it right. It took 45 years, but they got it right. My one theory that I think weighed heavily in the case. Mm-hmm. So there's a Law and Order SVU episode called 41 Witnesses. Mm-hmm. It is based on the bystander effect, which there were so many people there. And they noted there's so many people, softball tournament, day laborers, partiers, bonfires, that there's so many witnesses. That information is hard to sift through, whether it's a credible witness, whether it's just a looky-loo. Mm. And there's also the bystander effect is when there's so many witnesses that they don't have a credible witness because they don't want to talk to the police because they think somebody else. I'm not going to do it because I think somebody else is going to. And that episode of Law and Order was based on the Kitty Genovese case.
Okay. The mobster.
Yep. In March of 1964, she was found raped and murdered at her, I think, in her apartment or the entranceway to her apartment.
Yeah.
And nobody called 911. They heard her screaming and they heard her fighting, and nobody called 911 or nobody called the police because they assumed somebody else was going to do it. And I think that kind of played a factor in this case because there was just so many people around that the police had to sift through all the different statements and theories, and how are they going to track all of those people down? Mm-hmm. Those day laborers could have gone back home to the West Coast, to Mexico, to Canada. The softball tournament could have gone to another state in New England. It's just impossible to track all of those people down. And then you get bullshitters like Philip Scott Fournier, who ended up being the perpetrator.
I mean, it's kind of a smart move in a way what he tried to do, which,
not that I recommend it.
No, well, I mean, clearly it ended up not working, and he gave himself probably a genuine lifelong, head injury, right? I don't think you go into a coma and come out of it without some type of residual, right?
I think he was thinking clearly when he sent the investigators on all those wild goose chases.
Yeah.
And then he used his TBI to his advantage.
Hmm.
You mentioned a town cover-up. What was that about?
Well, this is really out there ideas where it's a small town. I always look at the police and I'm like, well, was he related to anyone?
Yep.
How many times have we seen where the police, the sheriff's
Tracy
son,
we covered the Tracy Kirkpatrick case from Maine or Maryland.
That's a perfect example.
I'm still convinced the security guard did it, and his dad was the chief of police in that town.
There are a lot of people in my town, maybe your town as well, who are like, all that stuff, that doesn't happen here. And it's like, they like to keep it that way. And I'm not saying that is exactly what happened, But what I'm saying
Nepotism is always and will always be a thing.
Yeah, and it's like the whole NIMBY type of thing, the not in my backyard. Or, you know, if this gets out, all of a sudden our property value is going to go down, you know, and
right.
It's a real crazy, like around here, I'm in like the real suburbs here on Long Island, but I'm only like 10 minutes away from Queens. So there are times where Queens people, no offense to Queens, will venture into our neighborhoods and steal cars or break into things or whatever. But nobody wants to like get loud about it. Nobody wants to really report it because they're afraid that it's going to reflect poorly for the property values.
That, and a lot of people are anti-police these days. Like, people just don't want to deal with the police.
Our police are kind of incredible. So, I mean, it's not really that, but I will say that we could use more police in the area for the amount of taxes that we pay, which are the second highest in the nation. So yeah, I mean, but yeah, people, they don't want to turn to the police. They don't want to also say, hey, I'm going to call the police and get involved. They'll think I did it. Or
they don't, or maybe they don't want to be annoying. Is it Is it really necessary? Yeah. I don't want to call the police if I don't need to.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the bystander effect. People don't want to call the police if somebody already has, or they don't want to call the police because they think somebody else will do it. Yeah,
the whole Kitty Genovese thing. You know, and that is a shocking story. I recommend everybody go and quickly do a Google search for that case. It's just a terrible, terrible reality that happened. And,
right. We'll put it in the show notes. I'll link the Law and Order episode, and we'll link that case in the show notes.
Yeah. But yeah, where he stands now is he's in prison. Well, he'll die in prison. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just real quick. One of the first series that we rolled out was group involvement, either gang or hazing, because her hands were tied. Plus, there were so many parties and teams and stuff. But my theory is that they got the right guy. He was the only one involved. And then there were loose, unsubstantiated links related to cases to like the Bear Brook murders, which I think that was Joe Albert's crime, right?
I don't know. I don't know anything about the Bear Brook murders. Maybe I do. I don't know.
I think that's how Joe Albert became involved and became a suspect, because he had been convicted of a girl's murder whose body was left similarly to Joyce, but that was unsubstantiated. So, like you said, these remain fringe theories without evidence. The court relied on Fournier's repeated confessions, spanning decades, including non-public details and circumstantial ties. The lack of forensic evidence was attributed to weather and time, not suppression, and the conviction was upheld on appeal, with judges finding the evidence sufficient beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah. And he's finally caught, but I just wish I wish it happened earlier. I mean, of course.
I agree. These types of cases are always interesting and kind of I wouldn't say scary, but just very interesting to me. That when I watched Unsolved Mysteries as a kid, a lot of them did have updates, but this was one I really remember it not having an update.
Really?
And I rewatched it as an adult. They came on, it was a huge deal when it came streaming on Amazon in like 2016 or 2017.
Yeah.
And it had an update. I was like, oh my gosh, when was it solved? And it was just solved like that year.
Yeah.
So it's just very interesting, like these cases from the 80s that were solved in my adult lifetime, or cases that I remember watching that were unsolved that are now solved. And that it gives me hope for Tracy Kirkpatrick, because that case is very near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of those cases that stays on the radar of everyone, right? I mean, you find a lot of people will dive into that over and over and over again. So we can keep our fingers crossed on that. I just did, I was trying to see if the person who is the child of Philip, so he had a daughter. I don't have a name or anything. Not that I would release it anyway, but she would be 27 or 28 years old right now.
Younger than me. Now, cut that part out. I don't want people to know my age.
We have to. So I wonder, like, do you think she must know about her dad, right?
She has to. There's the internet.
I just, we don't know anything about her. For all we know, she lives in a bubble and has nothing to do with this. Or she's like somebody who may be listening right now. And if she is, and you want to talk about this and everything, feel free to reach out to us.
So I think that kind of closes it out. Current status, this case remains solved and closed. Philip Scott Fournier is now serving his 45-year prison sentence with no reported recent appeals, parole hearings, or new evidence. Joyce's mother, Pamela McLain, long advocated for justice, including pushing Maine's cold case unit. And that's what had happened when, in the mid-2000s, when she wrote the letter she wrote a letter to the Maine Attorney General to get her daughter's body exhumed. And during that time, she had hired 2 celebrity forensic pathologists. They had worked on the OJ case, for example. She expressed relief at the 2018 conviction. The resolution brought closure to the community, though it highlighted the lasting impact of East Millinocket's sense of safety. No new developments have emerged in recent years.
And do we know if Pamela McLain is still around?
I couldn't say anything.
Yeah, there's no mention, so let's presume that she is alive and staying strong.
Sounds rather morbid, but it's pretty easy to find obituaries, and I searched for it and it didn't come up.
Yeah,
so
I would imagine we would know. She's not like a celebrity, but she's well known in the world of true crime with this case. So I would imagine it would get flagged. I hope she lives I hope she definitely outlives the lunatic who took her daughter away, and I hope that she found peace with him finally being caught and convicted.
Right. She was alive as of December of 2018 when he was convicted and sentenced.
Yeah.
So,
well, Catherine, looks as though we've made it to the end of another episode.
After 4 or 5 long years,
it's crazy. I've
done another one.
I feel like it hasn't been that long, but I'm going to take you on your word on that one. But it was a lot of fun. I know we've tried to do this,
right?
Probably half a dozen times, but nevertheless, we're here now, and we'll put out some episodes and see where it goes. Hopefully, there's still people out there listening, and if you have any suggestions, you can reach out to us. Mark,
we are on Facebook.
Yeah,
I think we're on Facebook. That's it, right?
Yeah, just look up
Unsolved Mysteries Rewind. We can branch out if we get a growing fan base. We can branch out on the social media platforms.
I kind of hate social media.
I do too.
But
it's very time.
It's so time consuming, and it's so like another thing to do. Can't do it all. But probably the best place if you want to reach out to us is Unsolved Mysteries Rewind on Facebook, the old man Facebook. And that's it. That's a good place to keep up with what we're doing and when we're doing it. There are several other podcasts I'm working on. There's a lot of projects kind of floating around, but that's a good place to kind of check us out and see what you think. Catherine, as always, thank you so much. it's really good to touch base with you, get reconnected, and I hope you keep building these amazing engines.
Thank you. I'll see you again soon, Mark.
Absolutely. Just stay on the line, please. I don't know how we're talking. I don't remember how I connected us. So just give me a moment. It's not on that computer. It has to be here somewhere. I found you. Okay. Well, yeah, so thank you so much for doing this.
Tonight we have been confronted with an entire catalog of unexplained and unsolved events. Tune in next time as Unsolved Mysteries Rewind discusses another collection of unsolved mysteries. Until then, we can only look and wonder.